Right, welcome back to the channel guys, and this is going to be more of a analysis, opinion kind of a video that I did tell you I'll put out. So as the title suggests, today we will be discussing why the modern day story is so important in Assassin's Creed. Now with Valhalla coming out in 3 months from now? Actually 3 months from now, literally this is 17th now. So 3 months away, Valhalla is 3 months away, and so especially with the news that is coming out about Valhalla, about how it's handling the modern day, how it's trying to do something different, I just wanted to discuss why the modern day is important. Now before going any further with this, I would just like to say, if you end up liking the video, please press the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. I would love that. You would make my day, and that would make me very happy. Moving on from that, so before starting with the main meat of the video, I'm going to make a base assumption. Now most of the Assassin's Creed fans today, they don't really know why modern day matters or why it is brilliant in the first place. Because if you look at how well the games actually sold, Origins and Odyssey pretty much outsold every other game. And before that, Unity also sold very well. Even though it was broken, it was because the hype was there. And all of these games had pretty terrible modern day segments, and some were downright lousy, and when I mean some, I mean Odyssey. So for the Assassin's Creed fans who don't really know about the older plots, I'm going to give a brief recap just to kind of get you up to speed. There are spoilers here, so this is a spoiler warning. There are spoilers here, and if you don't want to know, jump ahead to the time that I'll give on the screen right now, somewhere in the screen right now. Right, so what actually was the modern day story? So right when Assassin's Creed 1 begins, it doesn't actually start in the Crusades. It starts with a guy named Desmond going into a very modern looking office and getting strapped to a machine. That machine is known as the Animus. Now, obviously, if you had played any Assassin's Creed game, you know what an Animus is. It renders genetic memories, or at least that's what it is supposed to do, basically. So what this does is it lets us view the genetic memories that are in a particular DNA and view the memories of the ancestors who are linked to that particular DNA. Now, time was where you can only use your own DNA and you can only see the memories of your own ancestors, but Abstergo found a way around it. That came later on. So but that's not the entire story of the modern day. The modern day story is so much more deeper, because Assassin's Creed 1 arguably did not have much in terms of the modern day story. But we did come to know that the Templars in the modern day were seeking the same things that the Templars were seeking back in the Crusades. And they were trying to find it by viewing memories of this one ancestor. So they were doing that, and they were trying to find that apple. They were trying to send it to space and essentially control everyone from there. Because Assassin's Creed is a story that is told through 3 timelines. One of them is the modern day. One is the historical story that you guys are experiencing, and one is the Isu storyline. So the Isu is a civilization that came before the humans, the ones who came before, and they have their own thing going, and they are obviously dead now. They are not alive. So anyway, so they made these pieces of Eden that the Templars are chasing so that they can have more of a control over the world, and so that the world can stay at peace. While the assassins think that no one entity having this much power is good for humanity, and that freedom being taken away to ensure peace is not the correct way to go. Now, and debate can be had on how each of these ideologies are wrong and right, and I might actually do that, but not in this video. In this, I just want to go through the lore. Anyway, so then Assassin's Creed 2 starts, and in Assassin's Creed 2, we are following this new protagonist Ezio, but our main protagonist, the one in the modern day, is still Desmond. And Desmond Miles is the descendant of Ezio and Altair. So now Desmond is trying to learn Ezio's skills and also trying to see what Ezio was after. And it turns out that Ezio is supposed to be some sort of a prophet. So Ezio was trying to uncover the same thing. So Ezio goes into a very secret vault, a vault that was built again by the Isu, the ones who came before. And then he has a conversation with that Isu entity, but in terms of it's like essentially a video recording. It's a recording that the Isu left behind specifically for Ezio. But that's again not the main part of the story, because what happens is Ezio is not even the one this goddess is talking to. This god is talking to Desmond through Ezio. So now what happens here is the Isu can see through time. So essentially the Isu know that this guy Desmond Miles in the modern day is going to view the memories of Ezio, and that Ezio needs to be in this exact place in this exact time so that Desmond will get the message from the Isu. If it sounds complicated, it is. It is incredibly complicated, and that's the brilliance of it. It is one of those story threads that kind of left you scratching your head before trying to fully process what actually happened. And just before you process any of it, Brotherhood happens, and it just becomes even worse from that point on. And when I say worse, I mean in terms of the coherency, because at this point you need to consider the fact that there are 3 different storylines, all converging into the same point. All 3 storylines are working to working in tandem together to make a one coherent story, and you need to be paying complete attention to all these 3 storylines. Now, what this does to the Assassin's Creed games, now these storylines are what essentially made Assassin's Creed. I'm not going to give all spoilers. I do want you guys to play the games, and of course I will be playing the games, so even if you guys don't play the games, just watch me play the games. So I have a kind of a motivation there as well. But anyway, so this is what was happening in the modern day. The story itself of the modern day was so well constructed. It was one of those stories where it really left your head in tangles. You had to really try and figure out what the hell was happening. Kind of like what you had to do in BioShock Infinite. And I personally love these kind of narratives. Something where you need to figure things out, that you need to pay attention to actually know what's going to happen. Now, in games like Witcher 3 and games like Red Dead Redemption 2, these games are praised for their narratives, and for good reason. They have excellent narratives, but there isn't exactly any mind-blowing twists and turns going on. This is a story with politics. I'm talking about Witcher 3 here. It's a story with politics. It's a story about great, excellent characters. It's a story about excellent character moments. But if you break it down, most of that story is essentially finding Ciri. That's not a bad thing, because that's not what the game is going for. Now, in case of Assassin's Creed, if you just take the historical narrative, so if you take Assassin's Creed 2 for example, it's just one chosen one trying to find his destiny and trying to get revenge on the people who killed his family, and in the end realizing revenge is stupid. And by the way, to the idiots who think The Last of Us 2 is such a mind-blowing and a groundbreaking game because it had the message that revenge is bad and we shouldn't engage in it, Ezio learned that lesson back in 2009. Yeah, back when Last of Us 2 wasn't even a thing. Back when The Last of Us wasn't even a thing. The Last of Us 2 didn't exactly do anything groundbreaking. There's my point. Just a pot shot at that, but okay, fine. Now, the thing about this is, if you take just the historical story, it's bare bones. It's a good story. It's a story with good character moments, but there's not much going on in terms of a narrative. But when you add the modern day story to it, and you add the Isu storyline to it, suddenly this becomes a really, really good story, because there is so much going on. And everything is impacting every other thing. So you need to take care of everything. You need to listen to everything. You need to pay attention to everything. You can't just skip through everything. That is a narrative thing that I like, and that is something we had in Metal Gear Solid as well. Now in Metal Gear Solid there are no 3 separate timelines going on, although in a way you can say there are 2 separate timelines going on in Metal Gear 5, but let's ignore that. In Metal Gear Solid, the stories themselves were so brilliantly complicated that you need to figure out everything in that. You need to figure out what the story is actually trying to do. You don't know what's going to happen. For example, in Red Dead Redemption 2, the moment I started the game, I basically knew what was going to happen. This is a spoiler for Red Dead Redemption. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. In case you haven't seen it, if you haven't played it, I'm not going to spoil it. In fact, I'm going to do a video on my own channel as well. So I'm not going to spoil it. So yeah, the ending of Red Dead Redemption 2, it's a beautiful ending, but it's an ending that I saw coming. Witcher 3, one of the endings again, I hadn't read the books at that point, so I didn't know exactly what the ending was going to be. That's one small plot twist at the end was cool, I guess. But again, not much in terms of plot twists or like in terms of predictability. You can always predict what's going to happen. In Assassin's Creed, that was never the case. Up until Assassin's Creed 3, you had no idea where the story was going. You genuinely wanted to know where the story was going, because that's how good it was. But after Assassin's Creed 3, again, that is where things start to get bad. So Assassin's Creed 4, again, the way the story was told in modern day was bad. I would say it was terrible, because the whole first person thing, Abstergo employee thing, I didn't like it. But what was actually being told was still on the levels of Assassin's Creed 2, because there's a huge plot twist at the end. Now obviously, you could say that, yeah, I saw that coming as well. Yes, you could say that if you are particularly attentive, if you are a genius, or if you have an IQ of anything above 100, maybe you saw that coming, maybe I didn't. I mean, when I played Black Flag, I was a kid, so it doesn't count. But in either way, those are the games that surprised me in a way, because I did not expect to see what I saw. But in terms of Unity, Syndicate, Origins, and my god, let's not talk about Odyssey right now. So in these 3 games, I already knew what was going to happen. So that surprise element was gone. That thing that we couldn't predict the story, that we wanted to predict the story, but we can't, because we don't know what's going to happen. That element was gone. And that is the time where most fans joined into the series. So, and that is why when I see posts like, the modern day is just dumb and they should remove it, I can kind of understand where these people are coming from. Now, let's move on to the latest game, that is Odyssey. Now, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, things were very different, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey did all of the things that the previous games had done. Yeah, I'm not joking. It did that. It had a modern day, the story was connected with the past. Then the story at the modern day protagonist, I would say Layla Hassan has a bigger arc than Desmond Miles ever did, because Desmond Miles' story is what, about 3-4 weeks? Layla Hassan's story is actually a lot bigger than that, like in terms of what she actually accomplishes. But because Odyssey's writing was so nonsensical, none of these moments actually make sense. In Brotherhood, when that twist comes, when some character ends up dying, I'm not going to say what it is, you know that even though this was a shocking twist, it kind of makes sense in terms of what they had set up before. Again, in Assassin's Creed 3, in terms of what they were setting up, the ending makes sense. In Black Flag, in terms of what they were setting up, it makes sense. But in Odyssey, it doesn't, because the setup was so bad that the ending wasn't a payoff at all. The ending felt weird and disconnected because the setup was bad. And that is mostly due to bad writing, and that has got nothing to do with the game itself. It's due to bad writing. And it's due to the fact that someone who is not actually familiar with Assassin's Creed was writing it. So yeah, that is the reason why modern day is important in Assassin's Creed. Because if you look at the games themselves, they are not revolutionary anymore. As I have discussed in a previous video, that would be in the top right now. As I've discussed in that video before, the Assassin's Creed games, they are not exactly revolutionary anymore. But if you have storytelling like this, if you have storytelling where you can keep the player guessing at all times as to what is actually happening, that would elevate these games from being simply mediocre to excellent. And if you can have a good gameplay system, then they might just win Game of the Year stuff. And that, I feel, is the main reason why modern day should have more of a presence in Assassin's Creed, and it should have more importance in Assassin's Creed than it has been given in the last 4 or 5 games. So yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. Now with Valhalla of course coming out now, I don't know how the modern day is going to go. There is obviously some teases as to, you know, Eivor, the historical aspect of it, the Eivor not having a gender but that being linked to the story somehow because both of them are canon. It's weird, but they seem to be doing something interesting with it. And recently Darby McDevitt also said on Twitter that you might end up liking Layla, which, let's be honest, anyone who played Odyssey and still likes Layla, how do you do that? Because I definitely don't like Layla anymore, and apparently neither did this guy who commented. So yeah, and he said that you might end up liking Layla more now, and I believe him because I have no reason not to, because he was involved in the narratives, one of the best narratives in video games ever. He was involved in Black Flag, he was involved in Revelations. Origins, okay, not that great in terms of narrative, and I don't think he was in Origins. I might be wrong, but I don't think Darby McDevitt was involved in Origins, but I might be wrong on that. But just going from Black Flag and Revelations, those are one of the best stories in gaming in terms of the overall narrative that is going on. So yeah, I do expect Valhalla to actually work on the modern day a lot more than its predecessors have. And hopefully we'll get a modern day which everyone enjoys. Now I will be doing a video on how exactly modern day could be fixed, because as much as I am praising modern day right now, the way it has been executed in the Assassin's Creed games have not been good. Have never been good. Even back in Assassin's Creed 2 or Assassin's Creed Brotherhood arguably had the best modern day sections, but even with that, they were never really that good. Now, I have a few ideas related to how to improve it, and I am going to make it into a different video. So yeah, that's all for now. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and also do let me know, do you feel it's important anymore? Have you been around for a long time and you just feel like at this point modern day is just bloatware going on top of Assassin's Creed and it just doesn't even matter at this point? Because I can understand that. I also felt that way. I kind of do feel that way even now. But yeah, do let me know down in the comments below what you think. And yeah, peace.